We've talked about Dmitri Shostakovich as a courageous composer in the past, using music in a subversive way to get around the restrictions put on him as he was a composer, and a famous composer at that, in Stalin's Russia. And so, just after the Second World War, in 1948, Shostakovich, who was a very favoured composer before this, was denounced in Stalin's Russia as a formalist, whatever that means. And so Shostakovich lost his position at the conservatory, and he lost his livelihood, which a lot of us can understand at the moment. And apart from that, Shostakovich was waiting for this knock on the door in the middle of the night. He never knew what was going to happen in this unpredictable Soviet regime. And so, of course, he was compelled to write music in total praise of Stalin and the regime and everything wonderful Russia can achieve. But in private, he wrote music that was dear to his heart. And this piece he wrote in solidarity with the Jewish people. And he wrote it around World War II, after everything that the Jewish people lost. At the same time in Russia, Stalin had a sort of anti-Semitic crusade in his later years. And so the courage that took Shostakovich, behind closed doors albeit, to write this work in solidarity with his Jewish compatriots, with his Jewish friends, with his Jewish musician friends, it was a real act of courage. And so in this song cycle, from Russian folk poetry, there is a Russian translation of authentic Jewish folk poetry, which was originally in Yiddish, then changed, as I said, to Russian. And he wrote it for piano, for soprano, for mezzo-soprano, and for tenor. Even though he wrote it in about 48, it wasn't premiered till 55, many years later, which was coincidentally 2 years after Stalin's death. The song cycle uses really very simple and accessible harmonic and melodic style. It's meant to be very much like folk music, but there are also these weird little clashes, what we call dissonances. And Shostakovich also takes different scales, not just our regular major and minor scales, but more elements of Jewish folk music, of Yiddish folk music, and puts it all in. The text itself is authentic and really affecting. My son, who is the most beautiful in the world, sleep. But I'm not sleeping. Your father is in chains in Siberia. The Tsar holds him in prison. Sleep. Rocking your cradle, your mother sheds tears. Later you will understand yourself what grieves her heart. Your father is in Siberia, and I suffer in misery. Sleep while you're still carefree. My grief is darker than the night. Sleep. But I'm not sleeping. Sleep, my beautiful. Sleep, my son. Sleep. And here's a performance with the composer himself at the piano.